I read all of Dandadan in 2 days, and boy, do I have things to say about this. Now, before we get into the meat and potatoes of this video, I would like to say that we are not going to be doing a lot of spoilers here. There might be some like minor spoilers, but well, you might be asking yourself, Louie, what did you find in your read and why are you making this video? Well, there are three main things I found in this read. And the first one is I found a very intriguing and spontaneous story. Now, when you're reading this, or if you decide to read this, or if you watch it, because quite frankly, it's airing. So get what are you doing watching this? Go watch that and come back to this. So the story is super intriguing. So we start off, as we all know, with Momo and Okarun just like not believing in each other's like thing, right? So he likes aliens, she likes supernatural stuff. They're both like, I don't believe you. Boom, find out they're wrong. So that sets us up for a story with seemingly like no guides, no guidelines. Like anything can really just happen, and that is exactly what happens in this story. Sometime in the manga, we have a kaiju robot battle, which makes absolutely no sense out of context. But our mangaka, Yukinobu, Yukinobu, Yukinobu Tatsu. You know, if I'm gonna be making videos about animes, you would think that I would like get a lot better at this like pronunciation thing, and I even like pronounced it a few times before I started rolling. So like, anyway, our mangaka has put us in a position to where he can really do whatever he wants when he wants, and that's like the beautiful thing is that despite the fact that I just told you something kind of wild, it makes so much sense. I mean, especially the way he describes the backstory of our kaiju. You're like, yeah, who the fuck says there isn't kaiju on another planet, right? Or in this particular instance, there is like also a house that can turn into like a robot and like all of these things. And so like who's to say that with alien tech we can't make our house fucking get on wheels and drive away? Something that actually happened, by the way, in the story. So like he has done such a great job of writing a story where almost everything can be believable because we know nothing about the supernatural world, or at least like we as normal people know nothing about the supernatural world or life outside of Earth. So it's like, why not? Why couldn't you lose your balls and they can be used to harness the power to like make an alien invasion happen? You know what I mean? The second thing I found is a cast of characters that I can't help but want to see succeed, you know? We'll talk a little bit more about the romance later, but like all of these characters are like in one way or another like in love with somebody, right? And then there's a more specific love triangle as we get further and further into the manga slash anime that you're like, damn, I really like all of these people and I want all of them to get the person that they want to be with. But like we know that's not gonna happen, right? And it's just so rough because our mangaka has written characters so well and so like beautifully that I'm like, crap, even though you're like kind of annoying, I just am like, I'm like, yes girl, whip that hair. Like I mean, I know that you like a guy that I don't want you to like because I want him to like somebody else, but god, your backstory is so sad. You know, so like obviously trying really hard not to stomp on spoilers here, but like it really is true. And so like a lot of the times, especially during the later arcs, you find that you're like, oh, I hate this person. And then like you're like, oh, they're just a troubled individual who's looking for a place to stay, and for some reason they end up at Granny Seiko's house, and now they're eating sushi with everybody, even though they're like a murderer. And you're like fine with it because you heard their backstory and you learned all about how their planet was overrun and invaded, and now you're like, well, it's fine, girl. And like truly and honestly, like as you go through this story, you also understand like that not only is it the people but like the yokai. I think we've gotten some glimpses of this in the anime thus far, but like as you continue, this only like gets more and more prevalent, right? Like aliens that you didn't like have a backstory that like put you to tears, or you have a yokai who you're like, damn, that's deep. How are you liking these thoughts that I'm having, despite, trying not to spoil too much here? I think the biggest example of this is Gigi. When he first came in, and as I was reading this, because I read the manga before this most recent episode Dandadan came out as of today, which was episode 10, and tomorrow 176 is coming out, I believe. But I read it before his introduction into the anime. As I was reading it, I was like, "Oh God, who is this clown? He's gonna get in between Momo and Okarun, and now I'm gonna be stressed out about this." And like I was so right about it. I was so right that I was gonna be stressed out, but I was like, "Nah, I'm gonna hate this guy. He's a pretty boy. He's whatever." Like, I mean, he is a pretty boy, but like, he is so silly and he's so likable, and his power is like so cool. I mean, obviously in the anime we know nothing about this yet, but like as time goes on, he does develop a power with a double-edged sword, right? And during the invasion arc, he learns how to harness his power a little bit more, and it's really fucking cool, man. And the way that him and Okarun develop a relationship, and they both confess things to each other, and they both know these things about each other, but they're still like, no, this person's a really good person to each other, despite that in a way they're kind of both each other's foils to like what they want, you know? And so despite all of those things, I'm like, fuck, I really like Gigi, dude. I really like Gigi. The third thing I found that I'd like to talk about is I found a love story that I cannot keep my fucking eyes off of, dude. It's so weird. So like I'm not like a love story romance kind of guy. I mean, in my shonens, there is little to no love story. Like if there is any like kindling of a love story, it's like after the end, oh yeah, these characters end up together, whatever, right? And like the closest thing to a love story that I like kind of got into was like I was like, man, I want Lucy and Natsu to end up together. And so like that was kind of like the closest thing to that I have ever like, at least in like battle anime kind of situation that I've like been into, right? And so this is like kind of one of the first times that I'm like, am I like a 60-year-old wine mom reading love pirate novels right now? Because I'm really invested in Okarun and Momo right now. Like, let me just say. I mean, we've made strides, my friends. We have made absolute fucking strides in this relationship. Okay? They're doing stuff. And by that, I mean, she, like, at one point, like, plays with his hands. And they're, like, holding hands in the back of a car after a big battle. And I'm like, my boy Ken Takakura, you're a dog, my friend. You are an absolute fucking dog. Get that, dude. Oh my god. Like I just want to see him succeed, dude. And that's what I mean. Like I want to see him succeed, but I also want to see Gigi succeed. Like I mean more I want Okarun, right? But I still like Gigi. Like it's like ah. But it's clear to me that like I'm trying not to spoil too much, right? Because past what I've said, some stuff has happened, right? And it's very obvious to me, and I think you'll notice very quickly too that in the anime, both Gigi and Okarun like Momo. If that's not obvious as far as what I'm saying, but yeah, man. I mean, this romance is so it's written really good. I mean, what can I say other than all of these things that I've talked about that I found in this manga are all highlighted by this romance. So like as I'm reading, like, oh yeah, this kaiju battle's awesome. Like yeah, we get a nugget in like every chapter that you're like, yes, dude. Oh my god, yes. Like, please tell him that he is awesome, and then like blush a little, and then that's your nugget. Sometimes we get a full ass bite, okay? Sometimes we get a full ass bite of this romance, and it's at like most pivotal moments too. There's an arc coming up. I say coming up. It's probably like 2 or 3 seasons away, where they're like locked in a board game, and let me tell you, That arc I didn't really love. I mean that was probably one of my least favorite arcs, and that was the most recent one we just got out of, and now we're in a whole different arc. Um, I did not like that arc very much, at least right now. Maybe I have to go back and reread it. Maybe I have to just wait for it to come out in the anime. But as I was reading it, I was like, man, I can't wait to get out of this. It still had some really good moments, obviously, and it was highlighted by this romance. So this romance is what specifically made this arc. Without this romance, I would not have given two shits about this arc. I honestly may have dropped it if it weren't for me being like, holy shit, I need to know if like something happens between them that is important for me to know. You know? You know? And so even like the like boring parts of this manga are not that boring because I'm finding myself going despite me being bored in some parts because I want to see this romance kind of go through, right? And once again, I'm not the kind of guy that's going to sit down and like read a romance anime or manga. Like that's just not me. Sure, I'm like, "Oh, I hope Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker get together." Look how that turned out. Regardless, like I'm not like a complete like heathen, right? Like I'm okay with romance. Regardless, the romance. I'm not gonna say it carries this, but it does make it a very different shonen than like any other, especially with how good it's written. Now, the last question: why am I making this video? Now, I feel like I had to kind of ask myself that question because I was like, I really want to talk about this manga. I know we don't cover manga too much on the channel, but I still want to make it. And like quite frankly, I think that's pretty much it, right? Like I just want to talk about this because I don't really have a lot of people to talk about this kind of stuff with. Just me talking at the camera and like reading my notes and stuff like that is really all I have at the moment. But I mean, I just enjoyed it, man. I really did enjoy it, and it's truly just as simple as that. I just wanted to talk about something that I really have liked so far, and I haven't liked a manga like this since Fire Force, and everybody knows how much I love Fire Force, and when Fire Force was coming out, and I went and read the manga, dude, I was staying up till 2 or 3 in the morning reading that manga because I was so excited for it, man. And this has ended up being something very similar as well, and yeah. I'm just like I'm collecting Fire Force. I'm definitely gonna be collecting Dandadan. Like I hope that Homeboy ends up with the girl, but I also like love the kaiju battles. I love the Turbo Granny versus the Eye battles, which that means nothing to you guys, but it means something to me. And the art is so good. This mangaka, his art is so good. Let's talk about the mangaka real quick. Yukinobu Tatsu. Huh? Did I get it? Hell yeah, baby. As I was reading an article about him and kind of learning more about like how he got to writing Dandadan, the manga just kind of elevated for me, mostly because he tried and tried and tried until he got what he wanted, right? Which is a successful manga, right? He wanted to make something very successful that people are gonna love, and I respect him so much for it, and that made me want to keep reading and made me want to keep supporting him and all of those things. He had 2 or 3 manga that weren't like extremely successful, and he was like, dude, I need to figure something out. And his editor was like, draw things that you like for funsies. And that's exactly what he did. And there's probably a clip of the article rolling right now, but truly it's so hard as an artist to be like, what do I do? I want to make something successful, but what do I do? Like, I'm starting at a place where I have all this knowledge and ability, but I don't have a starting point to get there. And that's kind of honestly, in a lot of ways, some of these characters mirror a little bit of my thinking when I was a teenager. Um, More specifically, like teenage romance and things like that. Like that's something I feel like a lot of us can relate to. Like whether or not it has worked out well for those of us who had it, is another question. But a lot of the feelings are there, and that's where I kind of relate to the story a little bit. But I'm also very much relating to the mangaka in this channel specifically. Like I used to do a lot of different things in this channel, play video games, blah 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 blah. but we had to kind of do a restart and kind of start from somewhere, right? I have all of this knowledge in editing and in audio engineering and all of this stuff, but I was doing things in a way that wasn't like, I wasn't like particularly like, I'm not gonna say happy doing, but I was starting too big. What I was trying to attain wasn't attainable from the point that I was starting at. I hope that that kind of makes sense. And so, as I was reading that, it gave me some hope in the things that I'm doing here, in that I can get to where I want to be. I just need to start with doing the things that I want to do at a smaller scale and move up from there. And that's, and maybe that's why I like this manga so much, because I'm like, I relate to like so many different aspects of this, that it's just one of those things, man. It's just one of those things. So good on you, Mr. Tatsu. Keep on keeping on, and please, dear God, give us the payoff that we're looking for with this, because if I have to read another ending to a manga that's a fucking asshole, I'm gonna be upset about it. Okay, everybody, thank you for watching. Next Dandadan video is gonna be about the end of season 1, so feel free to tune into that when that does come out. If not, I do have a Dandadan episode 1 review and prediction up right now if you're interested. Okay, bye.